everyone, and welcome to another episode of Limelight, where we shine a spotlight on the exciting world of customer experience. I am your host Aniket. I'm the founder of LimeChat. We help brands deliver amazing customer experiences, and in this series, we dive deep into actionable insights so that you can actually get some actionables to apply into your business to solve your customer experience to improve your overall customer journey. And today we have a very exciting guest with us. We have Neeraj from India Mart. He is the AVP of product at India Mart. He handles all the initiatives related to WhatsApp. So great to have you here, Neeraj, and would love to know more about you and briefly about your journey as well before India Mart.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Aniket. I think it's great to be on this podcast. So yeah, as you explained, this is Neeraj and hi everyone. So before India Mart, let me explain my background a little bit. So I was in US for quite a few years. I did my undergrad from Purdue. I then went for my grad school at Northeastern Boston. Uh, and then I was working at Amazon, basically in Audible and Alexa departments. So after a few years, me and my wife kind of decided that we want to be back home, close to our parents, close to our family, and try to evolve in our careers in India, basically. So then I came back to India, joined India Mart as an assistant VP. And currently at India Mart, basically, I'm looking after WhatsApp, which is basically our support channel for both our buyers and sellers. It's been about 8 to 9 months since I've been at India Mart. So definitely been an interesting journey, and we're trying to evolve WhatsApp as a product.
Awesome. That's great to hear, Neeraj. So at India Mart, can you give some depth into like what are the main initiatives that you work on in WhatsApp?
Yeah, sure. So if people know about India Mart, basically it's a two-sided marketplace. So when we have a buyer, basically we have about 20 CR buyers registered on India Mart's platform. And then we have about, 2 lakh or paid sellers registered on the platform. And then obviously rest are free sellers who are coming to India Mart, basically having a free catalog and free registration on India Mart. Now, across these customers, basically there are a lot of use cases available because a buyer, for example, comes to India Mart to basically put in his requirement. For example, me as a buyer would come to India Mart that I'm looking for a mobile cover in bulk, and then I would put my specification, what kind of piece, quantity I need, what color I need, what's the brand that I need. So these kind of use cases are related to buyer. So at WhatsApp, basically, we are trying to basically solve for these use cases because as everyone has, understood, WhatsApp, the usability of WhatsApp is huge, and having a platform which basically kind of understands the user's query, like a buyer's query, his specifications, his requirement, using an AI creates a lot of better CX for the buyer, basically, because he or she does not necessarily need to open an app or go to the India Mart's website. You can just take your phone, open India Mart's WhatsApp, and try to basically kind of convey your requirement. And then we basically match you to the relevant sellers on India Mart. So this is a buyer use case. Now, coming back to the seller use case, paid seller in India Mart is basically a paying customer of India Mart. A paying customer basically has more leads to consume per week, has better order listing on our platform. So they have a lot of support use cases. For example, paid seller could come to our platform about a concern. And what we try to do is we use AI to understand the user's intent and then basically try to connect that user to a live agent, basically. So basically, we cut a ticket to the relationship manager of the paid sellers so that there is it's a very quick tag, basically. People are on WhatsApp, they type in their concern, we cut a relevant ticket to and route it to the right department, then they reach out to the seller. So basically, the end-to-end flow is very aligned on WhatsApp and it creates a lot of better user experience and trust with the brand.
Got it. So fundamentally, though, it's a B2B marketplace. I can be a B2B buyer. I can come and buy mobile covers in bulk. There can be someone sitting somewhere, maybe in Gujarat, and they have those mobile covers to sell. So they will be listed as a seller, and they can be a paid seller as well who will get that lead, and then they will sell. Then they will get connected outside the platform and sell, or will it be on the
Yes.
platform itself?
So yeah, so that's an interesting question. So we are a matchmaking platform primarily. So what we do is we understand sellers' behavior.
Right.
Sellers' behavior is basically, what's their preference. For example, a seller would want to consume leads from Delhi or Bombay because he deals in basically those two cities. Then obviously, then there is a preference around category as well. Which kind of categories is the seller interested in dealing? So coming back to your original question, so when a buyer posts their requirement, we match them to the relevant sellers, basically based on these kind of parameters like category, location, order value, and some other specific parameters. So and then once they match make, basically all the transactions happen outside the platform. With transactions, what I mean is like, what kind of, payment method they're using that is happening outside the platform. What kind of shipment tools they're using that's happening outside the platform. So we do not have any visibility there, like, whether, on the fulfillment side, what are the buyers and sellers doing. But yeah, definitely we are a matchmaking platform. We try to ensure that a buyer's requirement is matched to the relevant sellers, and the relevant sellers get the right requirement based on their preferences and behavior on the platform.
Got it. So it's matchmaking in that sense. So, so I wanted to ask actually before WhatsApp, how did the customer journey look like from the buyer and seller side, and what would be the main challenges? Is it exactly like how maybe I would go on Flipkart and buy something? Is it very similar to that journey, or what part of it would be different?
So it's a little different because it's a two-sided marketplace. So I mean, Flipkart is something where Flipkart as a platform is selling directly to the buyer, basically. But that's a little different on India Mart because being a two-sided marketplace, as I said, the main challenge comes across where, okay, you have match make the buyer and a seller, but then the challenges are outside that visibility where, like, because the challenges could be a buyer might run across any fraud with the seller, a seller might run into any fraud with the buyer, or the fulfillment is not going through because of the payment issues, or because of some kind of, like, commitment issues where the seller is not able to kind of supply those products because, I mean, maybe the demand is too high for that product. So those kind of issues are there, which obviously is difficult to solve because we are a
Hmm.
two-sided marketplace. So I think that is one aspect that I can think of definitely. On our platform, we try to ensure that, we do regular audits, we do a lot of A/B experimentation as well to ensure that, what kind of journeys are working for us, what kind of journeys are not working for customers, and then we try to optimize on that end. So from the challenge perspective, the biggest challenge that you know uh, kind of exists nowadays is, like, we are a matchmaking platform, but then
Hmm.
transactions and, like, dealings and, like, payments are happening outside the platform, so that becomes
Yes.
a little difficult for us to ensure that, how to kind of triage those issues. Yeah.
Got it. So before WhatsApp came into the picture, um, well, once a buyer went on the website and then they selected certain sellers, like, did the seller get in touch with them directly, or did you guys have a team also which got in touch and which connected them separately? How did that part?
Okay, so I think what you're trying to kind of ask is about the matchmaking, basically, because before WhatsApp, how was the matchmaking working? Correct.
Yeah, right.
Correct. So historically, if we see India Mart, like, I mean, before all this technology came in, like, the buyer originally used to post his requirement, and then we used to kind of call the buyer,
Yes.
uh, and call the buyer to confirm their requirement. Take in all the specification. Like, for example, me as a buyer would, let's say, come for like buying an iPhone, for example, and then India Mart's team would collect the relevant details, how many pieces, what's the specification, whether you want 256 GB, 512 GB, all those kind of specification. And then kind of we used to have this, like, rule-based matchmaking, basically kind of understanding all these specifications, all these, like, buyer's city, buyer's requirement, and then matchmake them to the relevant sellers, basically. So this was historically with the calling process. Then we automated the whole process. Basically, we started approving requirements automatically. So we placed an AI there. Basically, with the rule-based method that we were already using, we basically also appended that with an AI-based system. And at the start of the call, where I was mentioning, we capture sellers' behavior, kind of understand, what the seller wants, And based on that, we create AI models that match them to the relevant sellers. So on the WhatsApp, it stays the same. Like, I guess after a lead or a requirement is posted from a buyer, the matchmaking piece is obviously handled by AI. One thing that has kind of improved on WhatsApp is, like, for example, we used to have this intent process on India Mart where, like, you would call high intent buyers who kind of, like, left your platform without posting a requirement. And there, I think we have started leveraging WhatsApp to reach out to those customers and reduced our calls by at least 90% on the intent process. So
Yeah.
this is like huge, like, with WhatsApp being there, like, this has improved customer CX by huge numbers, huge
Mm.
percentage, because, I mean, a call would irritate you more than a WhatsApp message. I mean, so that's
Yes.
one CX improvement. Other
Mm.
than that, having a capability to use conversational AI or kind of AI systems to understand the user's intent, understand the user specification, and then automating that posting of a lead requirement, obviously, kind of helps India Mart and both the customer to do this job in a very easy fashion.
Mm.
So I think those are some areas where I think what we are using, trying to use WhatsApp as one of the new innovative channels on India Mart.
Got it. Got it. So basically, what you're saying is when a high intent lead buyer used to go and they have given their number, but they have not posted their requirement, then earlier you used to call. So now you are sending WhatsApps over there. So once you send them a WhatsApp, of course, it's much better than getting a call randomly. But after that, what do they do? Like if they reply to that WhatsApp saying that I have a requirement, then like how does it go ahead?
Definitely. So, if people are aware of, like, these templated messages on WhatsApp, we send outbound templated messages to the buyer, and we basically mention the same product that they were looking on the website, and
Hmm.
then give an option, like, whether they're still interested in that product. If the
Hmm.
buyer's intent is still high and he responds to our query, then
Hmm.
we ask for relevant question. Now, the relevant question would be category specific question, basically.
Hmm.
One question could be, what's the quantity of the requirement that you have.
Hmm.
Certain categories quantity is important. Certain category quantity may not be very important. Then specification, basically. Are you trying to buy slim fit jeans? Are you trying to buy straight fit jeans? Are you trying to buy Bermuda jeans?
Hmm.
These are like specifications of those categories.
Hmm.
Once user enters those specifications, what we do is we basically then, as I said, like, in the back end, we have these AI models which match these requirements to the relevant sellers based on certain
Hmm.
parameters that we have. And obviously, we try to evolve those parameters based on past data and so on. And then I guess the end step toward to that is basically we have this process where we obviously send one or two relevant sellers to the customer right on WhatsApp. So this
Okay.
stitches the end-to-end journey. Basically, one thing
Hmm.
is you're trying to reach the customer on WhatsApp. He takes a minute or so to kind of, like, respond to the requirement, give the right lead, or the right specification, and then we do our matchmaking, and then kind of give the buyer one or two, or, like, depending on, like, the how the whole architecture is developed, we try to match them to relevant sellers, basically.
Hmm.
So this is like perfect. Like, like, if you generally see how we evolved, we used to use desktops for these things. Then mobile got popular, apps got popular. We started using app. Now WhatsApp being a one-stop solution for all these things greatly enhances our capability to further drive the business.
Got it. So you have built the entire customer journey on WhatsApp where you're sending the message, even connecting them with understanding their requirements and then connecting them with one or two sellers as well. I actually had one question here that because you guys would have thousands of categories and millions of products as well, right? And sellers as well. Then how do you actually take those requirements and from a customer? Like how do you figure out out of those thousand categories which one is he interested in or which product is he interested in? Does he directly type it out on his own or does he have to select it?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, like, one thing is where obviously the user was on our platform, so
Mm-hmm.
we based on some behavior,
Mm-hmm.
what's his preferential category per se.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, like, we are trying to also build use cases where we are able to automatically understand from the user's query, and that is where the AI comes in. As people have been reading about conversational AI.
Mm,
Also, I mean, conversational AI is also evolved, like from NLP based models to Gen AI based models, basically.
mm.
So we are trying to basically leverage and experiment there, where we are trying to basically use those models to get kind of understand query of the buyer, understand the intent, do some procedures like entity extraction, where we kind of extract what the customer needs, whether like what specification he needs, what kind of product they need. And it's evolving, basically. There's a lot of challenges there as well. People, we have demographics, customers from all the demographics, multilingual challenge. People are not only like typing in English, a lot of English being used, lot of like other multi-regional languages getting used. So this system is evolving. Like I wouldn't say like on day one like we have fixed everything, but I think we are trying to understand what's primarily we are trying to understand first of all like what the buyer needs, what the customer needs, and also then try to evolve or kind of like deploy better models or like more trained on better data set to ensure that the CX experience is not compromised.
Got it. Got it. So, what would you say would be like the main metric that got impacted with you implementing this whole WhatsApp journey on the buyer side?
Definitely. So I think one key metric is obviously the lead generated, basically. Like, as I said, like, for example, the calling process. Let me talk about the calling process. In the calling process, obviously, customers may not be reachable on the call. They might be in like, in a setup where they're not able to answer the call. There's a huge drop off on the call as well. Like first is call connection, then there is a second step where if it's connected, whether you're able to talk to the customer. So, and then obviously, as I said, like drop offs as well. So these kind of factors obviously inhibited our capability to kind of generate those leads the way that we wanted them to be. Like for example, PMs or product managers or like other folks associated with India Mart might be using these KPIs to drive the business. Now with WhatsApp, this enables us, like, this increases our performance on that angle by leaps and bounds, because uh, I think customer is more available on WhatsApp, is more comfortable, giving his or her responses on WhatsApp. So that basically, I think that lead generation KPI on the intent side was impacted by a good percentage by replacing the calling process by with WhatsApp.
Mm, got it. Got it. Oh, cool. And what about the other side of the marketplace, the seller side? There you have paid sellers as well, you had mentioned in the beginning. So over there, what kind of initiatives would be working in terms of the experience and in terms of the WhatsApp?
Definitely. I think so. I think on this seller side, a lot of use cases are around support, basically. Like,
Mm,
uh, because customers are like, customers are, I mean, you are a big customer obsessed company. And I think we're trying to monetize on our sellers, basically. So it's our key responsibility to provide a right experience to our sellers for sure. And I think, as I mentioned about buyers, where a buyer prime majorly comes for, posting a requirement on India Mart, a seller basically might be coming for questions around the CRM software that India Mart provides. They're not seeing something that was promised, or they're having some difficulty with some certain settings on that CRM. But they might have some questions related to the payments they made on India Mart. They might have some questions related to invoice corrections. Probably like, they saw their invoice, some correction was needed. So that's one support use case. And then obviously if the customer wants to, kind of upgrade to other services, we have a lot of, we have three brackets of services that we provide to our sellers, basically, to our paid sellers. So, I mean, the questions could be related to that. Like, they might be inquiring about a cost or like, features of a higher paying service, or they might want to upgrade to that service. So these are some intents of the user coming to our platform from the paid seller side. So I think that's what we're trying to leverage, basically, because I think earlier before WhatsApp, I think we had calling and emailing was the major voice of customer standpoint at India Mart. And now WhatsApp is adding to that. Slowly, I think we're trying to evolve our models, understand what the user wants, have better audit mechanisms to understand, how we can improve these models, and then provide the relevant help to those sellers, basically. So I think, again, from the CX point standpoint, job well done and very easily done is something that I would want to convey. A customer, is on his phone doing multiple things, and then he or she also has a WhatsApp channel available to kind of, for the support query, basically. I mean, personally, me as a consumer, if I buy something from a brand, it's very boring to reach out to them on call with an IVR based system, or trying to, use their website and then search their email and then finally email. With WhatsApp, I feel this will, I think, increase my purchase numbers from X to Y, because I know that if something goes wrong, WhatsApp is there and I'm able to, kind of correspond there.
So when a seller reaches out on WhatsApp, do you have like dedicated support managers then for them who are there to resolve all of their support queries?
Definitely. So we have support managers, because usually the paying customers of India Mart obviously has support managers mapped to them to answer the support queries. And then, so if I tie that to WhatsApp, basically, if paid seller is, we also provide option to paid sellers if they're, if they want to connect to these agents, basically with agent, basically, we have the CRM system, and then paid sellers can easily cut tickets from WhatsApp. Right. And then that ticket obviously, is mapped to the relevant department or support managers. And then they are able to reach out to the customer. So this basically ties up the experience, because there's obviously a challenge, AI cannot solve everything. There's a limitation there. Customer also might be coming to your platform with different sentiments. So we want to ensure that we do not use AI for each and everything. There should be some kind of routing mechanism so that the customer is happy. So I think that is where I feel like WhatsApp greatly helps. And also the support managers also kind of understand this better, basically, because they have the context history available through WhatsApp. So if a ticket is cut, they're not it greatly helps basically understanding the context history, why the ticket was cut, and helping the customer in the right way. Yeah.
So there's one thing which you mentioned, which is some places you would be comfortable having letting the conversational AI have the take the conversation ahead, whereas in some places you would want to have that human touch. So how would you think about it? Where would you say it's where you would be okay having like a conversational AI take care of the situation, whereas versus a human?
So I think there's a lot of ways I feel like because I've used a lot of WhatsApp based channels outside, and then, bot based channels across different domains. A lot of ways people provide that. A lot of companies provide that option on the menu itself, whether the customer wants to connect to the live agent. A lot of other ways are using intelligent AI to understand the user sentiment, for example. If you see the sentiment of the users in that session is not very great, you would automatically would want to cut a ticket for them in the background, or have them connect to a live agent. Some of the other ways I've seen is we do a feedback collection system. If after every 2 or 3 round of queries or multi-round conversations, you try to collect a feedback whether the customer is satisfied with the answer or the support that they're getting. And if we get an indication that they're not, you would try to connect them with their support manager or relationship managers. I think there's some ways, basically, and I think it depends case to case. There is no, I feel like, one solution fit all
Yes,
approach.
yes.
I think you got to understand your customer, you got to understand your data, and then try to see how you can solve this in a simple fashion. Yeah.
So for you, it is like a combination of conversational AI and agents, and then that handoff happening where you can detect that the experience is not going well. Then in the middle, you have the handoff happen.
Correct. So yeah, basically, handoffs happening, and then providing them an option whether whether opting in, basically, we're not trying to automatically, we've not, so we're taking it step by step. Obviously we want to reach there where we have automatic intelligence capability to understand where to connect the user to the agent. But right now, I feel like we're taking it step by step, where we're trying to collect that opt-in from the user.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. So, so over the last 1 year, or like in recent times, customer expectations have also changed. Now that everything is available instantly in 10 minutes nearby, right? Do you feel like some for your customers also the expectation from you has changed, or is it changing? And like, what are the main places where it would be changing?
Definitely, I think customer experience is customer expectation is changing for sure. Again, because I can give more brief examples on WhatsApp. Now, when a lead, if a buyer of India Mart comes to WhatsApp and has several requirement or is coming for a support query, they want immediate help. I think the patience of the consumer is not very high per se. People expect because from platform like India Mart or any good platforms in India, people want very relevant help, and the tag for help should be very low for a good CX. And that is where I think the challenge comes, because after posting a lead, after matchmaking, also people tend to have a lot of questions where you might need a lot of contextual or better Gen AI solutions, because customer doesn't stay there. Customer wants to interact with India Mart. You might want to, hold the customer in a deterministic journey, but customer is interested beyond that. He wants to have the conversation. He wants to resolve his query right there. So resolving every use case on WhatsApp or like a bot channel might not be a very fruitful mechanism, because a lot of use cases require a lot of steps, a lot of a lot of debugging, a lot of various customer touch points. So we try to ensure, because we want to balance the consumer CX with what we want to drive. So we want to ensure that the flows or like the solutions that we build on WhatsApp are simple. We do not want to so I'm not saying that's the restriction, but I think taking it step by step is important. We do not want to overcommit to the customer that, okay, we'll be able to solve this issue right away with the or with the AI. So I think that's the thing, because I feel like a lot of customers on WhatsApp wants to converse with the company. They want to have multi-round conversation, and that multi-round conversation could touch upon various contexts that may not be sitting right away on that session. It might be sitting somewhere else, because customer would have called you a week before and then trying to ask the same question on WhatsApp, or a follow-up question on WhatsApp. A customer might have emailed to you a week before, and then on WhatsApp is trying to follow up to those emails. So those are the things where a challenge. I mean, there is a challenge obviously, because understanding the whole 360-degree of customers' life cycle across the platform is a step-by-step process, and I think sooner or the later we're trying to get there.
Hmm. Got it. Okay. So, what are the key initiatives that you guys are taking forward in AI and customer experience, which you feel would change things in the next 6 months?
Definitely. So I think, as I said, try to make it simple. Basically, uh, good feedback and audit mechanism is what we're focusing on. We as a product managers basically want to understand, first of all, what the customers want. We have tried to experiment with few journeys, and as I mentioned, like the buying journey, the intent-based buying journey was a successful model of customer experience. So based on that, we're trying to further see how to build a roadmap on WhatsApp. Because right now the roadmap would be limited to few intents, but there are a lot of use cases across. For example, a buyer might have already received the product from a seller, and his requirement is close. Now, in those cases, some other sellers might be reaching out to the buyer. So, having those solutions where on WhatsApp itself, the customer can just kind of close his or her requirement. So very transactional based things are something that we want to focus on, because I feel like, as I mentioned earlier, like buyers want, if they're coming to your channel, they want an immediate help and some kind of help that drives the customer CX. So we're picking use cases across buyer and seller, which can be implemented on WhatsApp. And with the implementation, I mean, it could be solved on WhatsApp basically. There's a lot of capability with models with Gen AI. You can use external API wrappers to kind of achieve. You can have, as people like might have read, tool calling is one big feature on Gen AI. Like, if the buyer's intent is about this, then you can do a tool calling and, close that requirement right away. So
Mm.
these are few things like we're, kind of for next 6 months trying to ensure. But that being said, I think our major focus is trying to understand our user better and trying to route them to a right place rather than solving everything on the channel itself. Yeah.
So I had a general question also for you that, and this answer is like different for different businesses, but for you, if you are able to give good customer experience to your customers, then how does it affect your business? And if you end up giving a bad experience to your customer, then how does it affect your business?
Definitely, I feel like I can touch base upon few KPIs that are important. For example, on the buyer side,
Yes.
good CX experience increases the repeat buyers on your platform.
Mm.
Because the first time buyer metric is very, very important, new buyers on your platform. But then the repeat is very important. The repeat ensures consumers like your product, like the offering that you have, are
Mm.
able to find the right sellers for their requirement, and then repeating on the platform because they think that India Mart is the one-stop solution for my needs. So I
Mm.
think a good CX experience, both on the support side, both on matchmaking side, is very, very important for repeat buyer percentage on
Mm.
India Mart. On seller side, as I said, like, because, India Mart is monetizing on sellers. So good seller experience, good seller CX ensures that, people find your platform worthy to stay. They kind of like, ensure that, okay, they do more renewals basically on your platform. They might be on a monthly plan, they might be on an annual plan, they might be on a 3-year plan. So a good CX experience, a good uh, journey is built across platform for helping the sellers, ensures that sellers stick to the platform, do more renewals, and find India Mart as one of their medium to drive their business.
Got it. So if you end up giving a bad experience to a buyer or a seller, you have seen that they don't become a repeat buyer or a seller, then they tend to leave the platform then in that case.
Yeah, so I mean, that's very so. So I would not deep dive into any numbers, but like,
Yeah.
subjectively, this makes a lot of sense also because,
Mm.
I mean, me being a customer, if I tend to go to an app or like a platform,
Mm.
a good CX always and like, I try to advertise that platform by word of mouth to my peers, my colleagues, and also I next time I'm very excited to again use that platform for a new requirement. So I think definitely, like, if your journeys are now not stitched on your platform, if your support is not stitched, if your WhatsApp channel, let's say, is not working for the buyer, so all these like various touch points, call, emails. So there are many touch points. Like, there's no one touch point affecting all. There is like, it's a many to many relationship basically. Uh,
Mm.
so there could be various touch points affecting various buyers. Like, one buyer could be affected by an email process. One
Mm.
buyer affected by a journey he doesn't like on WhatsApp, India Mart.
Mm.
So I think it's our responsibility to ensure that we do not only focus on the website, we do not only focus on the app, focus on the entire 360 degree of the buyer coming to on a platform. And for that matter, seller as well, but let
Mm.
me what the buyer use case. So we want to completely understand what is the buyer of India Mart doing across the channels, basically.
Mm.
And then trying to deduce, like, what improvements can be made to further drive the CX.
Awesome. Um, so with this, we come to the end of the questions. I just have a few rapid fire questions for you
Sure.
before
Yeah.
we end.
Sure.
So the first question is, what would be your favorite book or podcast on product and customer experience?
So Honestly, I am more of a reader basically. I don't listen to many podcasts, but recently I think I kind of, so I'm forgetting the exact name, but I listened to a podcast about challenges of a two-sided marketplace. And Aniket, I think I'll send you across after this podcast, so that, maybe if you want to kind of mention that somewhere. And
Mm,
it was a very good podcast. Anyone wanting to do a business on a two-sided marketplace, what are some factors that these founders can ensure, so that they address those pain points early on in their business, and
mm,
kind of drive a better business for both the uh, investors, for both for the customers, and for uh, founders and their employees as well. So again, summarizing challenges of a two-sided marketplace recently, I think it was about a month ago, I found it very, very interesting. They talked about use cases of Uber, basically Uber being a two-sided marketplace. What's the challenge? How do you address those problems? What is some key things to ensure that you don't make mistakes early on while developing these kind of platforms?
mm. Oh, got it. Yeah, I would be very interested to listen to that. Please fun. So the next question is that if you had to sum up your leadership style in one word, what would it be?
Great. So I think so one word. I think, yeah, that's an interesting question, but I think simple. I guess. Simple is the word, because I try to, whenever I'm in a meeting and if I'm talking to my peers and colleagues, lot of challenges there, right? Because India Mart, we are one of we are a racing business. A lot of tasks, a lot of things are flowing in the pipeline. A lot of questions asked. A lot of features need to be developed. So prioritization is not easy to achieve. And I think as a leader, you have to ensure that you prioritize the right items, and also build the confidence in the team that they're working on the right items. And simplicity is the driving factor for that. Keep it simple, don't plan too much. As I said, a lot of things Gen AI can solve for sure, but we want to keep it simple. We want to, today, sitting in this room, plan for what the user wants, and have some bandwidth of the plan, what user could ask in the future, basically. Sometimes getting in a loop where trying to solve everything is not very, very possible for anyone. So being a leader, you want to make it simple for your peers and colleagues, so that they target the right problem. So I think that is something I
Uh,
want to ensure. To do that, I think you got to obviously look at various metrics, and then try to see in the more how to product make that product simple, and how to drive a better CX experience there.
Definitely, now people are making things more and more complex with buzzwords. There it is harder and harder to convey things in a simple manner, but that is more powerful, right? Most
Because
good answers are
we
very
would
simple.
ensure one thing, and that's my personal opinion. Gen AI, from machine learning to NLP to LLM, things have evolved, but the users are born the same way. There is no changes have happened, like how a kid is born
Yes.
and how they are basically brought up. There might be better parenting style, better environment that you provide to a kid as they grow up. But ultimately, we are humans, and we require very simple things, and we require very simple use cases that we want to basically solve. So that is very, very important that this goes parallelly, because sometimes when the other part goes very, very ahead, then the interest of the human in that part reduces by leaps and bounds. So we want to ensure things run parallelly from both the sides. We as humans need to understand new technologies. Keypad phone hote the, then you went to smartphones. But then the simplicity factor never reduced, basically. If you're an iPhone user or a smartphone user, those brands are trying to make the usage very simple. Maybe yeah, trying to use complex technologies, they're trying to use complex hardwares, they're trying to use complex algorithm, but the CX experience is still very, very high there. I mean, it's not Apple would say to a user, okay, I mean, this is difficult for us to do, so that you need to do something like this to ensure that you have the experience. So that is the key part, how much ever Gen AI, and then I feel recently I was reading about small language models are coming up, uh, various other applications, infrastructure, AI, these things are evolving, but we want to ensure these things do not impose on the user. Like, they run with the user. That is what some.
Right, right. Awesome. So the last question is, what would be your go-to activity to unwind after a hectic day?
Yeah, I mean, these days have been very busy, to be honest, but typically, like, I mean, I've been trying to hit the gym, like, at least if it's late in the evening, obviously, sometimes it's not possible, but me and my wife sometimes try to take a walk. And then at the work, like, we don't discuss work at all. At least we try to, but sometimes you get in that loop that you sometimes, okay, during the work as well, you discuss some kind of what happened at work and what we're trying to do. But we want to ensure that that time is basically discussing our personal goals, um, discussing about family, discussing about what's needed. So that is one part. The other part is sometimes, like, I'm a big social media fan, so I tend to, like, go on reels, try to browse random reels, and then just um, go to some fun content. So this is what I think, and I think it's very, very important as well. I think with all this hard work, it's important to spend some time into these aspects, and that greatly helps you, because I mean, big leaders have become big because they've done these activities with the hard work that they've already done. So I think that is that we try to ensure. Yeah.
Awesome. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thanks a lot, Neeraj, for being here, for sharing all of your insights. And I hope it would be very exciting and very actionable for people who are listening to the podcast.
No, I think very well, Aniket. I guess it was my pleasure to have try to talk through this podcast, and I guess wish Line Chat also all the best. I think been reading great things about Line Chat as well, and we'll be looking forward to learn from you on the new initiatives in the conversational AI as well in the future. Thanks.
Certainly. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye bye.